Here's was out of diesel engines. That's an electric drive. And just walking there for it.
Yeah, it's coming. No pun intended there. Good, Keith.
All right. So I would like to call the May 10th meeting of the Blue Horizons Community Council to order. So let's just go ahead and start with introductions. And since we have some new people here, just introduce yourself and what your one sentence aspiration for the community council is. And it can't be the mission. And I'm Keith Bamberger. I'm the chair of the community council, and my aspiration is to make affordable living accessible to everyone. Of course, energy is the biggest part of that, in housing. Well, go ahead. Yeah, usually just the members. Okay.
Okay, I'm Dave Bird. I'm an automotive engineer, and my aspiration for this council is to get as many people in this area driving on sunshine as possible.
All right, we'll go with Jeffrey from the virtual world.
Hi, everyone. Jeffrey Barton, Director of Real Estate Development for Mountain Housing Opportunities. And my aspiration would be that our transition to a renewable grid doesn't fall on the backs of our low-income neighbors.
Ken?
Ken Nelson, I'm the president of Blue Delta Energy, and I guess my aspiration is that we can figure out how to account for and pay for all the aspirations of this group.
Thank you, Ken. Jason?
Good afternoon, I'm Jason Walls with Duke Energy, and my aspirations for the group is that it continues to be kind of that connector and convener for people and programs and other things that help drive a more efficient future.
Thank you, Jason. And of course, I will give Jamie, why don't you give us an introduction?
Hey, I'm Jamie Wine. I'm the new manager of the Blue Horizons project at Greenbelt Alliance. And my aspiration for the group is to take the listening aspect of the committee structure and all of your expertise and be able to apply it in a meaningful and equitable way towards real solutions.
Thank you. Summer?
Yeah, I'm Summer Winkler. I'm the new project coordinator for Blue Horizons project. Jamie took kind of what I was going to say, but first meeting, my aspiration is just to do some good in my community with renewable energy and learn from you guys.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. And Chris and Michelle both let me know that they were not going to be able to be here today. So we still have a quorum, don't we? That's 5. So we have a quorum, so we can do business. And the first order of business, of course, is approving the April minutes. Now, today there's going to be 2 parts to that because we have 2 parts to approving the minutes. There's the April minutes, and then there's the net metering agreement amendment from the March meeting. So is there any discussion first about let's go with the net metering amendment because it's further back in time. I hope everybody got a chance to look at that, and I hope my notes make sense. You also probably discovered why you shouldn't have me take notes because I'm not good at it.
I'm going to kick this off by just saying I'd like to move to approve it.
Great. Do we have any discussion or a second?
Just one quick thing. I saw your notes a while back, but the link that was sent out with the agenda double links to the April minutes. The link to the that March meeting aren't attached to the agenda. I saw the minutes and I approve, I agree with your notes, Keith, but just wanted to let you know.
So I think they're in the hot link in the agenda.
The second one.
Approved, yeah. Okay, you click on this.
Yes.
This is the, yeah, the meeting about the
Yeah, it's,
utility commission letter.
yep. But you're right, they weren't, weren't attached. Thank you. All right,
And
so
actually, as a point of order, I think we approved the March meeting minutes
we did,
already.
yes.
It's just the March 22nd meeting that we didn't approve those minutes.
March 22nd, that meeting.
But the net metering one is
Right.
all that was unapproved.
Hey, it is pretty hard to hear you all when you turn your face to talk toward Keith. And so I'm not sure exactly what that last conversation was about.
What I said was, I'm pretty sure that we approved the March minutes in the last meeting, in the April meeting. The only thing that was left was the March 22nd meeting about net metering. The minutes from that, we delayed to this meeting to approve the change to it.
So do we have more discussion or is it a second?
I'll second.
And all to approve, say aye. Raise your-
Aye.
Aye.
Any people who do not approve, please say nay. Anybody abstaining, say abstaining. All right, so we approved the net metering amendment discussion. And now let's move to the April meeting minutes. Any discussion?
I'll move to approve those two.
Any discussion? I just want to say that I really appreciate the notes that were taken about the county planning discussion for the strategic plan. And I think that we really captured a lot of what we want to do in that discussion in those April meetings. So I'm probably going to bring these up later in this meeting or in the future, because I think it's really evidence that we had a good meeting and discussion about that. I do not know if I'm allowed second, so I won't. Anybody like to second the minutes?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeffrey. All who approve, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Abstaining. So the April minutes pass. Now, as we know, we've taken to integrating some public comment into the meeting. So this is our first opportunity for public comment. Like to discuss the minutes, or if you have any other thoughts on your mind that are relevant to this part of the meeting. Okay. We will move on to new business, and I will hand the comprehensive engagement plan process letter and process over to David.
Thanks, Keith. So shout out if you can't hear me on Zoom lines, but just kind of wanted to start with some context. I'll start with what probably most of you are familiar with, what we're working on with the strategic plan. So as you all know, that's kind of been going in phases. We just kind of finished phase one, which is really to figure out, to do some modeling and analyzing some analyses, figuring out the technological requirements, different sort of what we believe are key ingredients to get us to what the county voted to be the a new goal of 100% renewable energy by 2042. So that kind of phase one, I presented to you on that, and we did. Phase two, as we've mentioned, is sort of getting into all the other nitty gritties that really can go into getting us there. So looking at the different aspects of social equity, justice, economic, legal, policy, sort of all those other sort of important pieces. And things that kind of tie in hand with that is like, how does that affect our local community and our local county? So the other piece that ties into that is we're in the very early phases, but doing some community engagement and trying to find out what are sort of the most important and essential pieces of that people really want to see happen. So we're working on that. We're also working on, figuring out ways to analyze potential programs, projects, actions. And coincidentally, at the same time, and this is kind of where this letter comes into play, is that the Buncombe County Planning staff are working on their Buncombe County Comprehensive Plan. And the timing for both of those really lines up almost perfectly. Ours is 2042. Their timing is looking at 2043. So we're really kind of right in there in the same realm. They also just completed their phase one, which was a big community engagement process, trying to look at and figure out what they believe and what they, what the community thinks are important for the comprehensive plan. Their next phase, which is starting now, basically, is trying to come up with some specific policy and program suggestions, things like that to move forward. And that's sort of why this is a good time for all this. So not only does everything, in my mind, there's a lot of overlap, but because we are working on that, they are working on that, it seems like it's a good opportunity for collaboration. So we kind of put together this letter, but before I get to that, this is to me sort of the icing on the cake. I just put the link in the chat, but if you go to the Buncombe County Comprehensive Plan website homepage and scroll down, what it says on there, if I can find it. Yes, okay. So what it says is a comprehensive plan is not limited to studying land use components. It can include other areas of focus such as safety, public health, affordability, multi-generational needs, equity, and more. A successful comprehensive plan will guide growth and address community needs and priorities through a series of objectives, strategies, and goals. So to me, there's tons of overlap. And so we sort of at the recommendation of Brown and Newman put together this letter that the strategic plan and some of us have worked on and revised, that we are hoping to send to the Buncombe County planning folks who are working on the comprehensive plan, basically asking for us to do some collaboration and to be part of that process, because we think it can be mutually beneficial. I'm not sure if folks, I meant to hand this out earlier, if folks in Zoomland or elsewhere have had a chance to take a look, but who else? You need one. Okay. Great. But I wanted to hear some discussion about that, but also sort of keep in mind that we, starting with sort of the end in mind, are hoping to figure out how we can move forward with sending the study to them if we want to. So unless people have objections, after the discussion, I was thinking about doing, I wish Michelle was here today because she'd be able to talk about this a little bit better, but the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, it's our modified consensus.
Thank you. Yes.
So in addition to voting on the letter, I do want to think about rather than having this be the process of the entire committee, after we vote, or regardless of whether or not we vote to or not to approve the letter, but also moving on to giving the strategic planning working group permission to move forward and meet with the city and county and kind of take leadership of this plan. So that's a second vote that I'd also like to have today.
And let me, thank you for saying that, because I want to touch on that too. So just as a quick add-on to that, yeah, strategic planning committee is happy to lead this process. And we even talked about if there are BHPCC members who want to be more involved in that, then maybe the easiest way for that to happen would just be for those folks to join the strategic planning committee and join in on those meetings. So hope that answers some questions about that. But yeah, does anybody have any thoughts, ideas, comments, suggestions about the letter?
This is where you talk.
Yeah, I was just, so, and if I missed it, my apology, but this is the first time I think I'm seeing the letter. Is that?
It was attached to the meeting that we sent out.
Meeting announcement.
Yeah, back on Friday.
And I sent it out again earlier today just to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, so overall, I mean, and this is just a comment. I don't take issue with anything in the letter, except I think when you get down to, I think it's the 6th paragraph or the 5th paragraph, if you count the bullets in the preceding paragraph, where you start talking about per capita and on energy and things like that. Anytime you start using very specific numbers, if this is a call to action to invite us to the table to participate, I would be careful using numbers that could very easily be disputed. And so I do take some issues, as folks may imagine, with words in that paragraph. And the other thing that I note, just reading this very, very quickly, we hold very heavily on the clean energy transition without any mention of the need for reliable electricity on the grid. And I think that, that's something that people can talk about reliability in different aspects of the work, but I think that's an important component because reliable electricity is kind of a foundation in which the community is built on. And even, in some of the bullets or some of the pathways that were envisioned in the moving to 100 with full electrification and other things, I felt like that was really missing from some of the language.
Jason, you mind if I ask a quick follow-up about that?
Hit it.
Yeah, 2 questions for you. One, when you say we, are you sort of referring to Duke as a whole or BHPCC members?
No, I don't speak for anybody but myself and the company.
Okay, great. And then the second one was, if you had a suggestion on a revision for that section, do you have any specific?
So I want to be transparent and honest with everybody on the call. I take issue with the entire paragraph that starts Buncombe County residents and ends with county's economy. I love the fact that the letter talks about what we're for and why we want to be at the table. I don't appreciate the negative tone of that paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see some reality in that paragraph, but I don't see negativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's all our perspective. It's the perspectives in which we sit and read. I like the tone of the letter overall. I love somebody just did something and I lost it. Everybody. I like the idea that we're asking to convene and be a part of the conversation. I just take issue with that one paragraph.
Judy and Rick have their hands up, unless there's more comments on that topic.
So let me just ask this then, Jason, would you, if in your opinion, then would you just scratch that whole thing? Or would you revise it to have a slightly different message? If it was all up to you.
Well, it's not. I mean, in ease of, I think the idea is to vote and approve this to get it over today. At least that was kind of what I was gathering. I would strike the paragraph and then, everything else in there is about what we're for. And I think has a great convening kind of tone to it. I mean, I could wordsmith it, but I don't think that is effective anytime on a group setting to do group editing.
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to get a slightly further understanding of what you were looking for.
Thank you, Jason. We'll go with Rick and Judy and then Brad. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, and Jason, I'm interested to see if you would find this agreeable. Because I mean, our perspective is that it's not the money spent. I agree. It's not the money spent on energy. It's the money that leaves the mountain. It's the money that collectively we spend on the fossil industry in energy that is the economic drain. And so, I mean, I agree. You can't edit this necessarily in the moment on the fly, but I personally would love to see that sort of information brought together. And I don't know if we can actually get that information, but that is what's critical from an economics point of view here locally.
Thank you, Rick.
Well, I think one of the purposes, well, besides reflecting some numbers that we've worked up in the strategic planning process, because I think it's a headline number to say that currently we spend $1 billion on energy. And I would also say that only about a third of it is on electricity, Jason. Most of it's on gasoline. And it's just an estimate. That was based on $3 a gallon gas. So at $4 or $4.50 or $5 a gallon gas, we're actually sending more money out of the county. So it becomes an economic argument for electrification as much as anything. So I would think that Duke would be in favor of this paragraph, but the tone of it is negative because we are saying what we're against, which is money going out of the county. And what we could say is that what we're for is money staying in the county. And I wonder, Jason, if that would change your perspective if we reworded it to talk about the opportunity, economic opportunity for more money to stay in the county.
I'm always what we're for and not what we're against. I think that when you're asking to convene conversations, that when you're against something, it is a disincentive to be invited to a table.
Right.
That's just my propensity.
I mean, because I think we could word it in a way. I mean, it's two sides of the same coin. You know, we're against losses. That means we're in favor of profits. And so we could just say we're in favor of profits instead of being against losses, and that would change the tone.
Taylor?
Yeah, if I'm sitting in Jason's shoes or Duke's shoes, I mean, I think if I'm looking at the right paragraph, probably the mention of negative externalities does not give you the warm and fuzzies. There might be, again, we don't have to wordsmith it here. There might be another way to say, instead of focusing on negative byproducts, focus on where we want to go towards, which is more efficient. So talk about investing here locally towards more efficient resources. I don't want to speak for you, Jason, but I imagine when I was reading through that reading those words alone, I could see why that might not sit well with Duke.
Taylor, you're absolutely right. Again, it's just, to me, it doesn't add anything, and it creates a negative tone that isn't necessary. But no, thanks for highlighting that too.
I just want to mention that I think this paragraph, to me, offers some valuable context. However, I don't think it's necessary for us to achieve our goal of setting up a collaborative relationship with the planning department and their process around the comp plan. This piece maybe could be woven in at some later date if there's other people that can verify it, things like that. But the next paragraph talks about, there's the last sentence in there is talking about like the economic development opportunity of the 100% renewable goal. And so that's kind of the general message we're trying to convey, I believe, with some of this data. So I think the data is good. I don't necessarily think it leads us to our next intention of our next goal, which is essentially getting woven into their planning process.
Are there? Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I think that paragraph that you're talking about omitting is kind of there to set up the next paragraph. So, you know, so many times people think of the clean energy transition and they think of economic opportunities for people like who install solar panels on roofs and that sort of thing. But I'm talking about economic opportunity in a different way. I'm talking about where this letter is talking about economic opportunity as having more money available in the local economy due to not spending it on mainly gasoline, which is all produced outside, and also honestly on natural gas. That is money that is, we just don't think about it, but it's all going out of the county, and if it stays in the county, then other kinds, you know, it's not just putting solar installers or, you know, conservation professionals.
Yeah, and Brad, I would just spell that out, add some kind of editorial note or something as a footnote under that page that, you know, that the reason that really caught my attention is that I know per capita is not $4,000 for electricity. So I look at it through the bias lens of electricity, but we might just do a footnote around what energy means in that sentence.
I just added this section, these were including gasoline, natural gas, and electricity.
So people see.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure that you're seeing
Yeah.
We are not seeing that screen. Sam,
Well, I know you're not seeing it, but this is, see everyone's up top right there?
Yeah, if you instead of, we're not sharing screen, but if you click on the link to the document in chat,
Yeah,
It should-
that's what everyone, all these people up here.
it should reflect that.
That should be these, but, I mean, I could do share screen, but this is people that are open, that have it open.
Is your looking at me up? Say that.
Yes, you can talk, that's not what that means.
I mean, we also might want to say we estimate,
Uh-huh.
you know, instead of saying it as a fact, saying that's what our estimate is. And it is not in any way precise.
Okay.
Maybe it could be more.
I was gonna say, but precision is an illusion anyway.
Right.
As an engineering professor who had students who would quote all 16 digits from their calculator.
Whoever came up with $500 million of externalities, that was even less precise.
Right.
Well, and the other thing too, I'm again, in my bias looking at it from an electricity perspective, while some may leave the county, there's also an awful lot being put back in terms of grid investment and other things. And so the customers send it out, but we're also, you know, when I think about $1 billion, well, I don't know how much it's going to be, but a really big number in grid investment over the next 5 years, just in Buncombe County alone. So a lot of that comes back in some respects. Not that needs to be in the letter. That's just a point of information.
It's $1 billion every year. Before inflation.
Go ahead, Rick.
At the end of this, almost all, you see the last sentence in that paragraph. I think you would want to change the almost all, just to say much or a large percentage of or something, since you're not being precise and you don't want to, certainly whatever's spent on the grid, like Jason said and all, is not leaving our area. So there's big chunks that aren't leaving the area. It's just that fossil part is.
Uh-huh.
Large portion of this direct spending, I would even say, especially all that's associated with fossil fuels. Most of what's associated, most, because the distributors are being paid too. But yeah, that's the problem. The problem is not the electricity. The problem is not Duke. It's the fossil.
All right, are there any other comments about, well, first about this paragraph and then about the letter in general? And normally we wouldn't go through this wordsmithing thing if it weren't for the fact that we hope to sign this today and turn it into the planning committee right after this meeting.
Sorry, Keith, I'm just full of comments today. Just because I love a standalone call to action, I would actually, with that in mind, comma, make that a standalone paragraph, because end it with a kind of a standalone call to action to sit down, meet, and have a conversation.
Just last thing.
Which,
The most important line kind of gets lost after an 8-line paragraph.
this one right here,
Yep.
Where are we?
The very last.
very last,
Is this
this
in
mom, we
one?
welcome
Yeah.
the chance to have a
Oh.
meeting.
That'd be a separate, yeah, I like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right, because we start with initiating a collaborative discussion and welcome the chance. So those are the two most important sentences in the letter.
Back on that paragraph that Jason helped us wordsmith, I think there's a comma left in there that doesn't need to be there. A large portion of comma direct spending. Maybe there's another word that's missing there, but large portion of it. Yeah, that looks better.
And billions should be capitalized.
You guys take out this externalities, thing, and that's really gas, and, I mean, there's no,
You mean the whole externality sentence?
or you could just say,
If we were to
I mean,
flip it,
you can just take out a $500 million, large negative extra. Incur,
The health benefits are the big one, other than the climate benefits.
I mean, I think we could also potentially try to flip it and just say something along, as Jason was saying, to try to look at what we're for instead of what we're against. We're for this transition would provide a myriad of positive externalities.
Better for health and climate.
Yeah.
There's about
Which is economics. $1 million a year for that economic by disability.
there's about 2 minutes left on this item.
what's that?
There's about 2 minutes left on the agenda for this item.
Okay.
A myriad of positive health and environmental benefits.
So because of the timeliness of this, I do want to continue to spend time on this, on the comprehensive plan and process and letter. So unless there's a strong objection,
And thank you for making that change. That the rewritten that way satisfies my concern for what it's worth.
And then.
Thanks, Jason.
thank you. All right, any more discussion about the letter?
Yeah, Keith, this is a detail, but I presume we are not going to sign for anybody who's not here.
I think we delivered the data.
Well, and I think that I can sign as the chair for the committee because we do have quorum if we vote to,
Yeah.
that's what.
I would feel a lot better if either you sign for the committee or if only those of us on the council who are here have their names.
So, yeah, I think also we should have,
I would just have Keith sign and leave everybody's names off of it. If they want, I mean, you can list the members or whatever, but I don't think the rest of us sign it. It's just Keith signs it as the chair of the committee.
right,
That would be, I think that'd be the best.
I like that.
okay,
Good point. Because we don't want to be signing for anybody who doesn't know.
Right. We hadn't had any.
so are we ready for a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve and send the letter as amended by Sam.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeffrey. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining, say I abstain. All right, so the letter has been
job.
approved.
Hey, Keith, just real quick on the letter, before we actually print it and sign it, just Dave, maybe have somebody else read it that's not you and that familiar with it, just from a grammatical and comma and just sentence structure point of view. Not to change the words, just kind of that type of thing.
I'll look at it right now. I've tried myself on grammar.
Don't write like an engineer, Dave. Do not write like an engineer, Dave.
English major.
Put the way out of the way.
There must be somebody quiet.
There's actually, well, we can, Veronica.
Yes, get Veronica.
So yeah, go ahead and print it out and then have them look it up. All right, so the next part of this discussion that I want to just really have a second vote on as whether or not we want to give the strategic planning committee permission to act and work with the county for the Blue Horizons project. Of course, this is with the understanding that they will be, everybody is welcome to be a part of the strategic planning committee, which currently meets at 11 o'clock on the first Wednesday of the month.
Nailed it. Yep.
Except for next month.
Except for next month.
So everybody is welcome to these meetings. And in addition, there won't be any actions taken without keeping in contact with the board, mostly with myself and Michelle, because we're the chair and co-chair. So are we comfortable moving forward in that direction? Yes, no, maybe? Still thinking.
I might need to turn up my speakers, but Keith, I actually didn't fully hear everything you said.
I could move to closer to the speaker. Let's do that.
Essentially, the essence is wanting to give permission to the strategic planning group to be able to look at what policies, projects, and programs we should be talking with the comprehensive planning group about. You know, just as we understand that, like, there might be small meetings with them, we want to engage in the dialogue, and so it's an opportunity so the whole BHPCC doesn't have to be involved in that process, but it's like a smaller group of us, you know, is engaged. And then if there's any large stuff, it would, of course, bring it back to the BHPCC, but this hopefully will streamline the process.
Makes sense.
All right, if we want to move forward in that, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to deputize the strategic planning committee to coordinate with the county on comprehensive plan.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
And I like using deputize because that makes me look at badges.
Badges, no guns.
I don't think guns would help in this case.
Right.
All right, so we have authorized the strategic planning committee to act on behalf of Blue Horizons Community Council on the comprehensive plan. Great. All right, next item is the program evaluation report with Sam.
Okay, everybody, as part of the work we do on behalf of the city and the county and the community, we are providing a program evaluation that kind of shows the impacts of our work with Energy Savers Network and the Blue Horizons Project. We did a lengthy report, it's 9 pages that you can link to in the agenda, but I'm going to do a briefer version of that with a PowerPoint presentation. Can y'all see this presentation? No, not yet. Okay. Let's share. Okay, can y'all see the presentation?
Yeah.
First
definitely.
slide?
I can see it on mine.
Great. All right, so I'm gonna go through this. Please feel free to ask questions along the way if you have any. This is an impact report and evaluation of the work we do. And so I'm going to talk about Energy Savers Network, our Blue Horizons project and community engagement portion, Solarize, home energy chats, the Duke Energy collaboration, our fee for service program with them, the renewable, 100% renewable plan, the staff changes for Blue Horizons, some of the commercial work we've done, and Appalachian offsets. So I'm going to give a high level overview of these things. So for Energy Savers Network, our goal is 176 homes for this fiscal year, which runs basically July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. And we're on track to meet that goal through the hard work of the folks you see on the screen, like Kelvin, Hannah, Stephanie, and Daniel. Daniel's not working with us anymore, but Michael Bonilla is now a crew leader with us. So this group is out doing work most days of the week. We actually did 2 homes yesterday. We met Alliance with Energy Savers yesterday. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the way that reads, it says that 107 of the 176 household goal are HACA units. And I don't think that's correct.
All right. So in addition to the 176 homes, there's 107 HACA units. HACA stands for Housing Authority from the city of Asheville. We're doing about 3 or 4 per week. In terms of the ESN homes, which are mobile homes and site-built homes, we average about $491 spent per home. This is over the course of the 5.5, almost 6 years of doing Energy Savers. And so the cost per home has been going up over time as labor costs go up, material costs go up, et cetera. We also had, during the pandemic, we had there weren't as many volunteers available because of, So and just so everyone knows, the retail value of these retrofits is about $800 to $1,500 per home. So it's much cheaper, this model we're using, than like if we hire conservation pros, for instance. So these are some of the cumulative results from 2017 through March 2022. So we've done 841 homes, 296 of those are site-built and 545 are mobile homes. The average savings per household is $231 per year. The cumulative savings is $610,000 with 2,347 metric tons of CO2 avoided. That's per year, and then 6.3 megawatt hours of equivalent energy savings. This graph essentially is to show you that, we've spent this much money, but if we stop today on spending the money, the cumulative benefits of this program will continue because the measures are still in place. People are still using the electricity in their home and are saving energy based on the retrofits we've done. That all pretty clear?
I wouldn't say that if you stopped it today, though.
And we're not stopping it today.
No, I just would leave that out of the, I
Yeah.
would say,
That's just what this bottom line is supposed to say. We're going to keep spending money. The money part's going to keep going up, but the gap between savings and money spent keeps getting wider as time goes on, because every day we're doing measures. These measures will have a longer life than just per year, where we'll keep, the residents of these homes will keep saving energy.
yeah, just say for the
years down the
spending spent to date, the impact will continue to go up.
There we go. Okay, so Energy Savers Network was started by Brad and Alice with this idea of, working with volunteers in the community and some staff to weatherize homes. We've been doing tier 1 upgrades for these 841 homes over the past, several years, and that weatherization work continues to this day. We are doing, greater air sealing now than we used to do, based on having blower doors and being able to see where the air is penetrating in. So that's really helpful. The nice thing about Energy Savers is we've been able to add these other elements like home repair. So there was a grant that came in from the Dogwood Trust last year that allows us to do 40 home repairs this year. And we've done 8 of those. And I think there's like 30 or something that are on the waiting list. So we encounter a lot of people that need new decks or have holes in the floor or need a new roof, need electrical upgrade, things like that. So now we can support those households with that work. We also added the neighbor to neighbor solar last year. We have 12 PV systems for low-income households that have been installed. And then we have these community partnerships with folks like Community Action Opportunities, or Evelyn Charities, or ABCCM, or Mana Food Bank that allow us to, get clients and then also refer our clients to others in case they need help. So we have some exciting upcoming program changes. We have this heating system repair and replacement program happening. It was initiated by the Bank of America grant, and now we've got some ARPA funds. This is the coronavirus recovery money. So the county provided that money. And so we've got $250,000 to do heating system upgrades and also PV systems for low-income families. And then the city votes tonight on to give us another $250,000. So that's going to be really a great benefit to these households. And then Duke Energy is in the process of moving their Duke Energy Carolinas weatherization work into Duke Energy Progress. And what that allows us to do is to do deeper retrofits and get paid for those. Allows us to do insulation and to do some appliance replacement, hot water heaters, things like that, and actually get some incentive money back to Energy Savers Network for that particular kind of work. So we'll be contracting with other entities, like on the heating system, for instance, we contract with Sustainable Air is the group they're working with on that. Neighbor to neighbor solar is going to be Sugar Hollow Solar. And then in terms of some of the other tier 2 retrofits, we could potentially do it in-house if we decided to hire for that, or we could contract out for someone to do like installation, for instance. So we're kind of, basically this slide is just to show you that Energy Savers Network continues to grow in its impact and service in the community. In terms of the Duke portion of this, we had a 3-year fee for service pilot, and that is complete at this point. That was providing some incentive dollars for the work we were doing. Now we kind of transition to this next phase, which is the DEP weatherization work, which allows us to do even more retrofits. This is that tier 2 that I mentioned here. It also allows us to boost the incentive amounts that come for doing this work and helps us fund greater expansion. And then one of the most beneficial things about this is typically weatherization work's been done by groups like Community Action Opportunities. And now through our work, we've been able to expand and show Duke Energy that other nonprofits like Greenbelt Alliance are able to do this work. And so as they reach out into doing tier 2 retrofits, they'll allow other nonprofits to also perform this as well. So not only just has an impact here locally, but also in other parts of the state too. All right, so we're going to transition now to the Blue Horizons Project community engagement. So we're big portion of this campaign is just driving people to save energy. We do this lots of different ways. One of the ways we do it is through social media. And so we use Facebook and Instagram. You can see we've increased participation in both of those. Of course, the numbers are we still have room to grow in those areas, but we're going to be focused a lot on social media throughout the rest of the year. The website engagement, we have about 456 visitors per month. The website is kind of, there's been a slowing of traffic there, but we know that it needs to be redesigned. And so Stephanie on our team with Jamie and Hannah and others are going to be working on redesigning the website to make it more, compelling, engaging, and some of them coming up better on search engine optimization and search engine requests and stuff like that too. So the website was designed back in 2017 by Shelton Group, and it's old and outdated, and we know that, and we're going to be working on it very soon, in June, looks like June, July. There's some videos up on our YouTube channel and also website. And now that the pandemic is kind of mellowing out, we're going to be focused on event attendance again. Like in 2019, we did 51 events in that year. So that was like one a week. And then we basically had to stop that for 2 years. So now we're going to be now there's more events happening. We're going to be doing more in-person events. This is just the image of the YouTube channel. So go check it out. There's several videos on there. And also it's a great way to share what we're up to. So this is so the Solar House campaign, of course, wrapped up at the end of last year. We did the goal was 100 systems, and we did 182. That's over 1,450 kilowatts of PV installed, capacity installed. You know, the estimate's over 2 million kilowatt hours per year produced annually, over $250,000 in utility savings. This was $4.9 million worth of clean energy development in the community. And, you know, over 2.6 million pounds of CO2 avoided annually. And of course that compounds, like it's actually like 26,000 metric tons of CO2 avoided over the 25-year life of the system. So, you know, the nice thing is it adds up over time too. The neighbor to neighbor program, we installed 12 systems and we had 21 applicants. And we're going to be installing another 20 in the next 2 to 3 years with the ARPA funding. So this is gaining a lot of traction nationally too, because you know, there's a lot of places doing weatherization, but there's not many places actually paying for PV systems for low-income families, and that's what we're doing. So through the support of the city and the county and private owners. Home Energy Chats, this is our free consultation. There's a break as Sophie and Beatrice were transitioning, and now it's picking back up again. We've done 17 so far. We want to, you know, support more BIPOC communities with this. There hasn't been any so far, but the nice thing is we have new staff that continue to grow the program. Jamie has BPI training certification, and also Leah on our staff and Kelvin. So now we have 3 people on Remote Alliance staff that are BPI trained and home science professionals. So Leah and Jamie will be doing most of the Home Energy Chats. This is funded primarily by our city and county contracts. The 100% renewable strategic plan, you know, that phase 1 is complete. You know, the 3 main goals is boost efficiency, electrify everything, and green the grid. We've talked about this before, we're going to be hearing it more and more, but this is the essence of what we need to do as a whole to reach the goal. We now have Jamie and Summer on the team, so super excited that y'all are with us now and been training a lot over the past week or so, and you know, just really smart, bright folks that are coming on board to support the effort. The commercial sector, we had commercial program for a couple of years, and really we just realized that Duke and Lime Energy and Waste Reduction Partners are really serving these customers well. We don't really need to do that. So we as Blue Horizons Project, we paused doing direct commercial outreach and education. But we still get referrals sometimes. People call us and like, hey, I want to, you know, grow my business, whatever. We refer them to one of these 3 entities that have programs are in place to really support. And Duke's really boosted its commercial programs recently to be able to support financing for projects as well. So have kind of turnkey solutions for commercial businesses. You know, that's really a kind of it's really easy for utility to serve commercial customers much more than it is for us. So we continue to focus on the residential.
Is anybody serving the need, the electrification part of this, in particular, the build out of EV infrastructure in the commercial sector, and you know, the rooftop solar?
Right. Right. I mean, we're doing a little bit on the commercial. I mean, people will call us and refer to different solar installers in terms of the PV stuff. We have some Appalachian offsets things, but no, we're not, you know, we haven't been focused on commercial PV. In terms of EV infrastructure, I mean, I guess Dave can answer that better than I can. I mean, the Sky's doing some, but
the biggest effort right now is Land Sky Clean Vehicle Coalition. And secondarily, Blue Ridge EV Club.
And currently we don't have any Blue Horizons Project, you know, doesn't have any funding to do EV work. You know, that would be another element of work, and we can definitely talk about that. But you know, currently our focus is on the
And in terms of our policy recommendations, just because you don't have an active effort doesn't mean we can't, as the committee can't be making policy recommendations.
Sure.
And we do have a tech committee 3-pager kind of a brief on people, for people who want to install charging.
You send that around, Rick?
Getting close to the end here, so Appalachian Offsets is not part of Blue Horizons project technically, but it's under Greenbelt Alliance, and so, we're kind of working on this together. It's our local carbon offset program. We just completed a 10 kilowatt PV system installation for St. Paul's, which is an educational part of a church on Burton Street. Of course, we've done the Isaac Dixon Elementary School PV system. And we've done a wide retrofit for Hendersonville nonprofit. And then our next project is United Way. So we're still trying to figure out what the size of that system built. It's on the South Ridge Broad location, but it's a great roof and they're excited. And we've it's in the design phase right now, to figure out how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to raise. So our last slide is just to thank our funding partners. We couldn't do it without Buncombe County, City of Asheville, Duke Energy, Dogwood Trust, Condita Fund, ESM sponsors, and private donors. So this, when we were talking about moving it from when the EITF was talking about moving it to a nonprofit, one of the things was like, if we give it to a nonprofit, could they leverage other funding? And we've been able to do that. So we continue to raise money, but we pull money from a variety of sources to fund the efforts of the staff and all the projects we do. So at this point, I will stop sharing my screen and open it up to any questions or comments anyone has about what I've shared.
Sam, forgive me, I spaced out. The United Way one, is that the nonprofit as a result of the neighbor?
No, the nonprofit as a result of the neighbor is most likely Beloved Asheville. So they bought a new building, and it actually was an auto repair shop, and it's like got a great roof, but we're in the process of trying to figure out exactly how much PV they can put on their building because it's a new use, and so there's some energy modeling having to happen. But it looks like we're looking to fund around a 30 kilowatt system for Nashville. I've also put in applications for the county ARPA money for a PV system for the Basin project for Homeward Bound and for physical legal services. And so the county, elects to fund this for those two, and those are important as well. Any thoughts, y'all?
I just had a quick question on the Appalachian offsets piece.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, that's something I don't know their business personally, but I do worry when I see small projects listed as creating offsets. The normal terminology of offsets are something that are independently verified through a methodology with a lot of calculations, and it's not something that normally would be associated with a project of that size, because you'd have to basically try to calculate the avoided emissions associated with the amount of energy that was generated. So I worry that to me, is being somebody who's very intimately familiar with how offsets versus renewable energy credits work, that they're not overly simplifying how this works, because it looks suspicious to me. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Yeah, Appalachian Offsets is a program of Greenbelt Alliance to raise money to fund local renewable energy projects. And what we did is we actually had a firm out of California called EcoShift design the carbon calculator for us. And then we worked with the solar installer to talk about how much carbon's avoided. But we don't have a third-party verification, because essentially they said, if you want to do that, that's going to double the price of your project. And so we said, well, we'll keep it small and we'll just be transparent about what we're doing and how we're spending the money, instead of paying for the third-party verification. So, if we ever wanted to take this big prime time, we would go through the process of getting a third party verifier to step up. For now, it's like our little homegrown program.
Would it make more sense to just speak in terms of renewable energy created as opposed to carbon emissions avoided? I mean, that obviously is something you can be much more certain of rather than the fact that it's a little murky with the claims that are being made. But I mean, I'm not going to obviously go attack it. I'm just saying that it just gives me a little heartburn. That's all.
Yeah, sure. Well, we asked whatever company's installing the PV to give us a projection, and it is a projection, on energy generated and CO2 avoided. I mean, even energy generated, it's like that's a projection. So, and we run it through the EPA's calculator based on our region even. So that's even a little, well, that's a massive region, and of course we work coal and now our natural gas. So there's it's not 100% verified, but if we ever wanted to scale it up, we could do that if we want to pay for it. Right. Well, thanks everybody for receiving that. The PowerPoint and the fuller report are on the agenda. So, essentially we provide this information in order to help y'all get a sense of what we're up to on a day-to-day basis, and also potentially direct us to go in other ways if need be. If there's like a better way to spend the money that we receive from the city and county, then we're open to hearing it. Currently, we want to be good stewards of these funds. And so that's why we provide this information.
Great, thanks, Sam. Next on the agenda is Sam.
What am I talking about? All right, the communicate. So the next part is just briefly, we realized that for the 100% renewable strategic planning effort, we want to do a community engagement process, like listening sessions for the community to give input on things. And so we have a draft of a scope of work that we've sent around internally to look at how do we hire someone on a contract basis to work with the BIPOC community to gain insight into how do we ensure that we are inclusive through our planning process, how do we make sure we're equitable, and so we're not just designing things in a bubble, but we're actually taking in as many voices as possible. So we're going to be kind of reaching out to folks like Green Opportunities, Community Action Opportunities, the Climate Justice Listening Project, folks that the city had on board, Thrive Asheville, which is a nonprofit that's working on a lot of equity issues. We're going to reach out to those folks to get their input in this process and see if there's anyone they know that we could hire on a contract basis to support and facilitate this for us. So that's more of an update for anything else, but I am open to questions about that, and we can provide more details another time.
Any questions, comments for Sam? All right. Next part is the technology subcommittee, which I'm going to do a brief presentation on it. I am not sure if everyone saw the emails or a part of the conversation, but Bill and Ben have stepped down as chairs of the technological subcommittee. And I had good conversations with Bill. He just felt that it was time to pass on that leadership. I believe the technological subcommittee is one of the most valuable resources that we have because there's such a great amount of knowledge. And I've only been to 2 of the meetings, but both of them have had really excellent presentations, really great sharing of knowledge and ideas. But as we want to move forward, we need some sort of leadership for that committee. And I just want to discuss that a little bit about how we could foster that leadership from the Blue Horizons Community council or help them find a new leader. And if you go back to our meetings, our minutes from the April meeting, I mean, there were a lot of really good technological things we talked about. And of course, we worked with the long range, Buncombe County's long range plan and work with the areas. We're certainly going to need those resources. So just want to have a conversation about how we could best keep that committee going. Because nobody stepped into that leadership role, which, so do we have any discussion or ideas, thoughts about that? And if somebody who's here who regularly attends those meetings kind of talks a little bit about them, that would be great, just to fill in, because I know we can't all go to all the meetings.
Yeah, I don't, we have not, to my knowledge, had any discussion of who would replace Bill and Ben. They put an email out to us saying they were stepping down. And I know I've spoken with Bill privately about it. I don't think there's any progress on finding.
Yes, and I brought this up to Bill. I think that we should broaden the discussion to ask ourselves what kind of committees we really need and what are the relevant topics for the committees. In my mind, we now have most of the technology that we need to complete the energy transition. It is not a technological problem. It is a financial and political will problem. And we know what we need to do, and it's encompassed in our three main technical pathways: price efficiency, green the grid, and electrify everything. So I think maybe we need three committees: one for greening the grid, one for electrifying everything, and one for the other one. The other one, green the grid, electrify, and pricing it, and one for efficiency. And have the committees focused on what we're trying to do, not on, because I think you know, I loved those meetings, but they tended to just be talking about different aspects of the technology, but they weren't, you know, we talked about heat pumps, and clearly that's a efficiency and electrification technology. You know, but it's implementing the heat pumps for the most part that are critically important. So that's my thought. Is let's think about what kind of committees we really need.
I'd like to piggyback on that. I agree pretty much 100% with what Brad just said, but I do think that a tech committees can serve a good purpose of education and quantification. That in particular, I'm thinking of Amy Musser's study of the heat pumps. That had real value to actually put real life numbers on paper.
Yeah.
But
how many, you know, then becomes a question about how many committees can we really have, or how many people are there?
We already have a community engagement one, and we have a planning one.
Well, the strategic planning is pretty clearly, and community engagement, we clearly need that. So I don't know. I mean, maybe technology needs to change to pathways.
I'd love to get Rick's comment on that with Judy, since y'all are also regulars.
Well, I mean, I thought those are really good points. The only thing I was going to throw on the table is just that, you know, we've had this time slot available, and I mean, like was mentioned, there hasn't been any discussion about this. You know, the guys who were leading the committee said, well, we're not going to lead the committee anymore, and we've not met since then. So we've not really had any discussion about this, and except off the record. And so, I mean, I was thinking of just throwing on the table that we meet at that time. And maybe we figure out what the deal is, because I think those ideas that you guys just mentioned they're good, you know, because I mean it is critical that we figure out how to inform everyone about this transition for heat pumps. This electrification thing it is not just electrifying the grid, and that to date has been sort of the focus, and not wrongly so. That's just the way it's been. And we've got to get to where we understand that that's a much deeper thing. It's how do you get, I mean, especially with what we have firsthand witnessed. We tested this. I've mentioned this before. I don't know if I've mentioned it to this group actually. We took on a little job since we have an HVAC license, installing something for my brother-in-law, and basically found out that and let him get quotes, got him to get quotes, told him what to ask for, tried to drive the conversation so that contractors would actually give him quotes that were for electrification. And boy, did that fail. I mean, nobody gave him a quote that was worth anything. Okay. And they all quoted fossil replacement. This was a old natural gas system. They all quoted fossil replacement. And it was just kind of like, wow. And then the ones that quoted other things, mini splits and all, they were all just kind of fractured and, in my opinion, my snobby opinion, garbage. And so there's a significant role for us somewhere in that area that we have not achieved any kind of strong leadership in yet. I mean, just so you know, this is not a trivial thing. This is something we have SBIR grants in for, trying to get funding to develop the tools to be able to grease this skid and help it move forward. I mean, there's things missing in our society that to help achieve this. They're just not there yet. And so this is that you've heard us mention this project we're on with MIT. It's exactly what it is. It's about trying to turn this tide to where we do electrification and how to inform and educate and help lead people to do that smartly. So anyway, that is missing from our work here, and that needs to continue forward. Whether the tech committee is a tech committee or not, that's a completely separate question. We have this Thursday, first Thursday afternoon. First Thursday of the month, 3 to 5 is this window of time that we've been doing for years and years and years. And recently we've been using our Zoom for it. And as far as we're concerned, we'd love to continue that time slot just because it's available and it seems like a bunch of us have it available and we can maybe figure out what to do with this. But the energy should be there. I mean, the big question when we threw this on the table last time here in this meeting, and it's not on the agenda, I'm sorry, I didn't really look, is what to do with the study that Amy started. And that was a real finding, like something that nobody expected, not Duke, not us, nobody expected that big of a result. Well, shouldn't we be passing that information on somehow? I don't know. Yeah, so there's these things. Okay, that was my input.
So, just an observation from what your comments are, that definitely it's needed. And I think that especially, I shared that study with somebody from an HVAC company. We were at an event together and it literally blew her mind physically. I mean, I sent her the link. She's across the sidewalk from me and she's like looking at it. She like looks at me, gets my attention. She said, "This is crazy."
Crazy like she was
Yeah, I was just
inspired.
crazy, like we're not really sure we.
Not crazy like she wanted to kill me, not crazy like she didn't believe it, but it was shaking the foundation of what she knew. And she wasn't prepared to get that in an event for 611th and 12th graders. At least not about energy. So my question to y'all who are part of that committee, what can I or what can we do to help keep the energy moving and help us get through to, because I strongly feel Blue Horizons Community Council needs you to be continuing to provide this, needs to get, so what can we do to help get to that next step? I mean, get practical stuff done. We've got a lot of practical stuff out there, but then get that practical information out to the people who need to know it. And how can we help? I mean, I can certainly convene meetings, but
Hey Keith, I'm the new guy. Don't want to step on any toes here, but I'm happy to jump in there and kind of like keep fostering things along and share that committee as a placeholder there to convene the committee and keep going.
And with, Jamie's role being the BHP manager is like being that bridge for the community engagement side as well. Kind of makes sense, because I think the technology committee, there's been a little bit of, the VHP staff hasn't really dedicated a lot of energy to that group. It's been more like conversations like, oh, that was a cool meeting, like we're discussing these things, but it hasn't been any like, how do we do this and actually implement some of the ideas. And so Jamie were in there, that might help like build that bridge.
Let's focus it on the goals. Because really, that was my point, is it needs to be focused on the goals.
What?
Yes.
So I wonder if it's worth a little bit of thinking and discussion about, okay, so technology at least, and then is there anything else that we want to wrap up in that? So technology and whatever else, people think is important that relates to that. And then depending upon what that is, maybe then it becomes a matter of trying to find somebody who wants to do that to keep it going along with it.
In our strategic planning, we call it technical pathways. What if we change the name to the technical pathways?
Technical pathways.
Oh,
we need to vote on that.
Sure. They used to name themselves whatever.
I mean, that's really just a question of focus. It's like, well, what is the focus?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of grab bag technologies.
Mm-hmm.
And just to throw in a little crazy perspective, I mean, it was when this whole thing started years ago. It's like Duke had not even, I think, really even begun to consider batteries. I remember sitting there talking to them the first time they showed up talking. I said, you guys are not realizing what's coming.
Yeah.
That's before we realized what was coming. But boy, you understood it. It was that exponential curve, just like computers, that exponential curve. And now, there's more batteries put in than solar this last quarter, or something like that. Something crazy. You just kind of go, wow. So I don't know. It's a good place, and it's a good place to even engage with Duke. I think when they show up, especially that group that led that study that Amy set up. I really hope to engage with them more, because they're really good folks, and they're sort of a group inside Duke. I don't know, Jason, if you could say anything about it, but they're a group inside of Duke. Right. That is looking for what's next to some degree. So I mean, we need to sort of keep that relationship going too.
Yeah,
Anyway.
partnership with Advanced Energy as well, because Advanced Energy is really doing a lot of this work in the state.
Yeah, and our input helped them get that report to something that was really good, because they not to badmouth them in any way, shape, or form, but they didn't quite understand how to compare houses, how to get apples and oranges to come down to apples and stuff like that. And we're all a bunch of nerds, so we help. I'm not on the committee, but I would say I second what Jamie said.
Could I chime in here?
Sure.
I've been listening. I'm part of the technical committee as well, and having been involved from my consulting in water quality, it was so important to convey feasible alternatives, technologies that are out there. And one of the things that I find in the technical committee is you dive deeper into many of the solar, battery, wind, not so much here, but certainly geothermal, heat pumps. You dive into the technology so that you can suggest to the council the feasibility of what's out there. And being more technically oriented, you read about some of the developments and you convey it to the committee, and out should come a boiled down, feasible alternative that can be considered to achieve the goals of the council. I'll leave it at that. Much what Rick has conveyed as well.
So I do really like that idea of making a good connection between the Community Engagement Committee and the Technology Committee. And Jamie, I thank you for volunteering to do that and be that connection for now. And we will go from there. Thank you for the discussion. I think I've made notes of things to do.
Can we leave it as something solid though? Or we'll meet next month at least, since like here again, we've not had a chance to meet since this was.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
So we'll meet next month, first Thursday, 3 to 5. Jamie, does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, we've had some good discussion, but are there any public comments before we move into the subcommittee and standing program reports? All right, so first up is Sam with fundraising.
Well, I've already mentioned this, but the city is voting tonight on their ARPA allocations. I think they're allocate $11.7 million to local nonprofits. And so we've applied, to be part of that. So if they do fund it, it will be the home heating repair and replacement program, the neighbor solar, and would also get some money to support some families with new refrigerators. Well, not refrigerators, quite a few times, the old refrigerators. So, that's there. We also have a grant from to the county submitted for some community engagement work. I don't think we have any other grants, although we're talking tomorrow about this DOE grant that Michael Cotton, that's his name. Yep. There's a $1 million DOE grant that's there's a concept paper due by the end of the month. It's basically looks at I think community resiliency and planning, things like that. So we kind of dovetail our 100% renewables work. So we're looking into that as a possibility to pursue.
The way it connects to resiliency and connect is through the microgrid idea. I think that's what create microgrids as a way of making community resiliency. So,
Hey, Brad, speak up, please.
Yeah, I think part of the focus of that is the microgrid idea that as being a key element in resiliency.
Yeah, and we could look at things like how does the planning effort, dovetail with utility scale storage. If utility scale storage is going to be sort of like distributed neighborhood by neighborhood, and what would that look like? What's the equity issues related to that potentially? Like we even had a conversation. This goes back to the technology committee at one point. Like when we were talking with Duke, it was like we asked the guy at Duke, like, would the batteries operate like a hybrid vehicle acts, where it's like, so it's cheaper to use the batteries now. Let's put the battery on the grid, or use the battery just to hold power until you need it. Just at high demand times. And like at the time of that meeting, the Duke guy couldn't answer that question. But we're hoping like, yeah, let's maximize the use of batteries. And so, but yeah, there's a lot of questions that come up with resiliency and utility scale storage. Also like ground mounted PV systems. Where can those go? There's the agrivoltaics piece that Michael was really into. So how does like food security and PV, how can those support each other? Things like that. So there's a lot of questions that have to, I don't know what, this proposal would try to study some of these things.
Yeah. Next is Energy Savers Network. I know. See Hannah.
No, and it's not. So I already talked about Energy Savers. Steffi, do you have anything you'd like to add about Energy Savers?
No.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I feel like you did a good
Yeah.
job.
Are we still looking for volunteers?
We're always looking for volunteers. We did have, what, 2 or 3 from the board come out. Steven Sorrell's been out twice, Santiago, someone else, I can't remember, a woman, but that's about it. So anyone else wants to come, you know, like I only have 2 volunteers today and tomorrow, which is hard because Cullen needs 4. So sometimes there are lulls, but definitely we try to get on the governor's website, Volunteer NC. They're putting out notices to all of NC about volunteer opportunities and working that. We have to do National Days of Service for that. But and trying to keep us up on good volunteer websites and working on Salesforce and we're coming up with a volunteer appreciation day on June 3rd at Highwire from 4 to 6 p.m. And we're gonna celebrate those volunteers with a special gift, homemade gift that me and Michael are growing and building with cement. So you'll get to see that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you want a gift, you got to volunteer though. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just once, you just volunteered once, right?
Right. You get a free beer and food.
Free beer.
Yeah.
I'll tell my staff to be there tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. If you've already feel that you covered this, Sam, there's Solarize and Neighbor to Neighbor.
Yeah, just, you know, we've already talked about all that, but we have Sugar Hollow Solar is gonna be installed for Neighbor to Neighbor, and they're gonna start doing more projects by the end of the year. But like I said, probably around, if the city money comes through, it's about 20 systems, PV systems for low-income families over the next 2 to 3 years. But we're also raising money privately too, so the more money we raise, the more systems we can do. We're actually doing a fund development plan tomorrow for our Greenbelt Alliance board of directors, looking at how do we raise more private money, because we're pretty good at contracts and grants, and like we have a fundraising event, stuff like that, but we haven't been very good at like connecting with the donors in the community, folks that can donate like the $5,000 to $10,000 range. But we can connect to several of those and allows us to do even more work. Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Rick and Judy have their hands up.
Okay.
Rick.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to ask Sam, you know, one of the things that I think would really help all of that is if somehow Isaac Dixon could end up being more of a showcase situation. Is there any, you're the person who's been right in the middle of that and everything. Is there anything we could do to help make that happen? That is just such an opportunity right dead in the center of town that everybody drives by. It's a stellar situation.
It is, yeah. At the Flip the Switch ceremony, we had 50 people there. Julie Mayfield, Mal Whitesides, and Esther, and Brownie, and you know, all these folks, all these parents, and all these people in the community, and we were on WLOS and in the paper and all that. But you know, it's like, well, one-time event, right? So we got to keep the community awareness of that high, and that takes constant like work. So yeah, I think maybe a video about it, or yeah, maybe I think we should highlight that some more, because that's, you know, it is such a good, and basically that was a community funded project. That's the one reason it happened. The private donations made that occur. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about like even having like a permanent kind of, you know, like Forest Service kind of display, you know, like an exhibition somewhere set up that we all try to figure out how to fund, get the city to fund or something, and something in the lobby, something that's ongoing, like you said, because one-off events are just,
yeah, right.
It could be a stop on the tourist trade, you know, it could be like, oh, here's Net Zero School here in Asheville.
And then, yeah, the Zoom tour goes by there, and the gray beer.
$5,000 ticket to go on the Zoom tour about energy.
There you go.
Well, anyway, I just want to keep that on the table because I mean, it's just such a bigger deal than anybody really, I think, has even begun to grasp, although obviously 50, 70 people grasped it, but
right.
Community.
Yep.
and also like this gentleman who is from Texas and actually built a whole lot of net zero elementary schools. Every school has a place in the school where they're showing the pictures of how it happened and everything else and what it do, how it's working, what's doing. So the kids are being educated and learning about renewables. It's not they're just not coming to school and like, oh, they have heat and they have air conditioning. Oh, that's so great. No, they're actually learning how it's working, and there's places they can go and see the machines actually doing what they do. That's been so successful. It
Live
really has
dashboard.
been. Yeah, very.
The dashboard in the lobby, I can mix them too. There's like a
Yeah.
display of like how much power it's producing, how many trees that equals, stuff like that.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That way the kids go home and tell their parents about it too. So the parents will be learning something too. So.
Yeah, that's what Jamie's done in New Orleans was, yeah, educating the kids to educate the parents.
All right, so are we ready to move on to home energy chats? Jamie?
Home energy charts have started back up. Leah Dickens took us through how to do it with Sophie. And so apparently it was the best home energy chat that's ever happened. So she was like, don't get used to it. You know, they're not always that easy and good because they went through everything. It was pretty cool. It was about an hour. So those are getting going again. And we've got a few more on the schedule coming up. We're going to try to recruit some more folks. So if anyone needs a home energy chat, send them our way.
So do we have any other things that the community council or the other people here would like to discuss?
Yes. One, who's our finalized equation printed out, ready for signature.
You printed it?
Do we have
Oh, wow.
letterhead, by the way?
We have Greenbelt lines. We have a logo. We like put logos up there. Yeah.
Do that. Make that one special. And two, as a secondary follow-up to that, I just got an email. Well, I said, talk about that.
Yeah, I went ahead and sent the email out to a couple of people who are on the steering committee. Went ahead and sent the final copy, and I already got a response from one of them.
Steering committee for the comprehensive plan.
This comprehensive planning steering committee, Nancy Baldra responded, said she thought it was a great letter, and what did she say?
I think she was asking if,
well, we ought to send it both to the, said, do you want this to go to the 2043 Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee or to the Planning Board or both? And it seems to me, she was kind of recommending that we go to both. And then she said, you also need to send a copy of it to Jillian Phillips on the planning department staff. So
Yeah,
that's just-
she's the head planner on the county side. for
Right.
this process.
So, and so, I mean, if you want to go to, we'll just walk it down there.
I can't go
The
tonight.
meeting is at 200 College. My steering committee meeting is at 200 College. You can go. But I'm not sure I can go. but
What time is it?
5:30.
No? Drop it off. By the time you leave,
Well, that's the place where the EITF used to always meet at the 200 College.
Right, on that first floor. I think.
I think that's the big question is, yeah. The folks are okay with us sending it to both, because I think that sounds like the way to go. We should also, we can drop it off in person if possible, and then also, I haven't had any luck getting the back from Jay, so just continue.
Yeah, I think Jillian's email, she'd sent something to somebody else, so I have an email. address for her now, so I can send it.
I was going to make another announcement of sorts that I am going to be working with a couple of folks here in Asheville to start a radio show on climate change on Asheville Community Radio. It's going to be called Climate Buzz, and it's going to start May 26th. I think the first Monday of we're not May 23rd. Is that a week from Monday?
That's
Climate Buzz.
an author to video.
Are you?
I don't know how much I'm gonna be involved in it. I don't know how much bandwidth I have, but I'm gonna help. Hannah.
I have heard that people are so much more protected after they retire.
And of course, everybody here is gonna be asked to come on and be a guest to visit, a guest at one of the meetings. So that'll fill up our agenda for the year. With all the members of the Horizons. And plus Rick and Judy. And Stephanie. And maybe Jane.
Jeffrey, your hand is up.
Thanks. Just had a real quick announcement. We're getting very close to energizing our solar installation at Maple Crest Apartments. It's 174 kilowatts. Probably going to happen sometime in June, but in case it happens before the next council meeting, I wanted to let you all know. I'll shoot an email out if we're going to have some kind of flip the switch ceremony. I'd love for some of you to join us in celebrating that. It's going to be it's probably one of the largest solar installations in downtown. I don't know of any of the municipal projects if they're bigger, but it's a really big one. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, good work.
Let us all know.
Thank you very much.
What apartments are they?
It's Maple Crest Apartments, the former Lee Walker Heights. Yeah, collaboration between Mountain Housing Opportunities and the Housing Authority. 100% affordable and soon to be solar powered.
That's great. All rooftop?
Yeah, it's the rooftops of the bigger buildings. Didn't really have enough consumption on the small buildings, but basically we maxed out the rooftops of the 4 bigger buildings.
I was gonna say on that point, I saw an email come through from the city that there's a huge townhome, or I think it's a townhome type structure off of Patton Avenue that's gonna go through the process of getting approved. And I wonder, I know that we're addressing the planning department just now, but I wonder if I would hope that they would build it more sustainable, but in the article, it mentioned that there was no talks of it being either for low income or even for sustainability. In the article, it was very brief, but it did say those things. I'm just curious if it might be worth it to attend those meetings, those zoning meetings or those planning meetings that they'll have, and mentioning that. I know that people can comment in those meetings and give ideas.
We know, was it the project, has it been approved or is it just?
No, it's in the process of being
Yeah.
approved. I can send you the article.
Yeah.
This is today's paper.
It was in today's.
Do we know
The
that
Citizen Times,
his
yeah.
developer is?
They did list the name, yeah, at the end. Yeah.
I'll say a quick word about that. I think it's a great idea to advocate for renewable energy and EV ready buildings as part of the zoning process. It's, that one is in the city limits, so it wouldn't be through the county, it'd be through city. And one thing that's hard, I serve on Asheville Planning and Zoning, and we're really evaluating projects and their adherence to the current zoning rules. And so until we further strengthen and codify incentives for EVs and renewables, it's pretty hard to require them. But if developers are asking for certain exceptions to the zoning regulations, that's an opportunity to really go to them and say, hey, there's an opportunity to do renewable and EV. And I will say that some developers are starting to come through on their own with EV chargers. They're a real token amount, but I think it's a good indication that our market is starting to recognize and value that in new projects. But yeah, if anybody wants to chat with me offline about zoning and stuff like that, I'd be happy to.
So do we know about any case studies that show the economic benefits of green building? I mean, you know, you've got the Proximity Hotel that went up, what, 12 years ago now, something like that in Greensboro, but they marketed specifically towards green tourism, I guess. So are there any case studies or anything like that that we know about?
I mean, there's, you know, in terms of affordable housing, there's several, but one of the ones that I've cited more frequently was South Bay Institute at Atlanta, and Virginia Tech did a study of green affordable housing and showed that a lot of soft costs were actually lower because people were at the table designing it all together up front, and so there's less change orders and things kind of move through the process. And maybe some of the material costs were higher, but the some of the development costs were a little bit lower. So it kind of like balanced out. And of course, then there's the savings on operations and all that. So and then yeah, there's several studies that show like that green built homes sell for more faster. Although in this economy and market, it's
That's in
like
9 minutes instead of 11.
right, exactly. It's a little bit, but yeah, there's several case studies for the how green building, you know, it's more advantageous economically.
Could I just make a comment on that? It seemed to me if I were building a home now, I'm retired in a Deerfield, so I'm not concerned about it so much. I leave that to the administration, but it seems to me we've got to be prepared for addressing those vital operations in any dwelling. And to do that, certainly we have to use less energy. And that's where, you know, good heat pumps or geothermal comes in. But put in solar with batteries just to address those critical operations. I had a standby generator almost 15 years ago when I built a new house. And it's even more paramount now. I think we're going to be challenged with addressing peak loads, and that's right up the alley of Duke's concerns as well. But why not do it for each dwelling in each apartment? Such things as certainly lighting and heating and air conditioning, the refrigerator, all those vital operations we can address and certainly at a minimum deal with the operations that are vital should power go off. Leave it at that.
Thanks, Peter.
Right, unless there are any other comments, let's call the May 10th meeting of the Blue Horizons Community Council to a close. Thank you, everyone, for being